When Dr. Wakefield launched the MMR scare back in 1998, he did so with a study of just 12 autistic children. And the evidence for a link between MMR and autism was anecdotal. The parents of 8 blamed the vaccine. In the Royal Free's video press release provided to broadcasters, Dr. Wakefield gave many the impression that his research team was on its way to scientifically proving a link.
What we've been able to do here, by directly visualizing and biopsying the bowel, is to confirm, at least in this group of children, that there is a link, may well be a link between gut inflammation and behavioral abnormalities.
But I've discovered evidence that casts a different light and undermines Dr. Wakefield's credibility. At the time, Nick Chadwick was a PhD student and Dr. Wakefield's research assistant.
What's Andrew Wakefield like, the man?
He's very charismatic, very driven, and very enthusiastic. So, as in terms of a leader, he's a very good person to take charge of a group.
According to Dr. Wakefield's theory, live measles virus in MMR can cause inflammatory bowel disease, and this can lead to autism. He believed that the virus could persist in the guts of autistic children who've been vaccinated with MMR. Chadwick's role was to test samples from the children. First, he established a scientifically valid system using sensitive molecular methods that would satisfy Dr. Wakefield and his head of department, Professor Roy Pounder.
Were Professor Pounder and Dr. Wakefield happy with the work that you'd done on that way of finding measles virus?
I believe so, yeah. They were happy to put their name on a paper. Andrew Wakefield encouraged me to write the paper and helped me submit it.
The paper was published in the prestigious Journal of Virological Methods. Having agreed his technique with his supervisors, Chadwick set about testing tissue samples from autistic children for measles virus, again under Dr. Wakefield's supervision.
And are these children the same children that went on to be published in the Lancet, leading to the MMR scare?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you find measles virus in those children?
No. No single case did I find any measles virus in those children.
Wakefield and Chadwick weren't just looking for measles virus in gut samples. Some children had also been given lumbar punctures, a difficult, painful procedure to take brain fluid from the spine.
You looked at some cerebrospinal fluid
That's
taken
right.
by lumbar puncture. Did you find any measles virus in those?
No.
So you found no measles virus in the children who were presented to the public at the very foundation of the MMR scare, where Dr. Wakefield's theory was that it was measles virus itself that was responsible for a bowel disease and then leading on to some kinds of autism, and you found no measles virus.
That's correct.
And you must have gone to him one day and said, well, I've done the tests on these children, I couldn't find measles virus. What do you say to that?
We had long discussions about possible reasons why my results weren't linking in with the hypothesis. My personal opinion was that it's not there, but Andrew Wakefield had some issues about sensitivity problems, which I found a bit surprising since he'd already approved of the methods that we used to try and detect measles virus.
If Dr. Wakefield now had concerns about Chadwick's molecular tests, previously he had endorsed them. In an earlier study on adults with inflammatory bowel disease, Chadwick had used the same methods, and Dr. Wakefield and Professor Pounder co-authored this paper. Another of the authors was Ian Bruce. He's a renowned molecular biologist and supervised Chadwick's Royal Free research alongside Dr. Wakefield.
If there had been measles virus there in those tissues, would he have found it?
My confidence is that he would. His approach was rigorous. He designed and performed the experiments in a way that was, in my view, scientifically correct. And if he had found, if there were to have been measles virus present, then he would have found it.
7 years on, and Nick Chadwick, now Dr. Chadwick, works at the University of Manchester. He's lived with the knowledge that when Dr. Wakefield launched the MMR scare, Dr. Wakefield knew that his own laboratory had dramatically contradicted his theory.
Why are you telling us this now?
Well, in hindsight, I realised that quite a big story was made out of the initial claim, and I think it's important to tell people about how there really wasn't the evidence there right from the beginning to justify those claims.
What did you think when you saw this press conference and all the publicity that followed and this tremendous scare?
Well, I assumed that it would die its own death, the whole story, to be honest. I assumed that if Andrew Wakefield couldn't get the molecular evidence, then the story would die away. From my own personal perspective, I was a student, Andy was the group leader. There wasn't really much of an argument that I could make, to be honest.
So how did you feel when the MMR scare took off?
I was shocked, frankly.
Do you think you should have said something at the time?
It's a difficult question to answer. I don't know that anybody would have listened in a way that would have made a difference. In a purely personal context, yeah, I feel that probably we should have been more vocal.
But if anyone should have been more vocal in 1998, surely it was Dr. Wakefield himself. And there was something else he didn't tell the assembled press, as I revealed in the Sunday Times last February.
Unknown to Dr. Wakefield's colleagues, the research on autistic children had begun with a contract from a firm of solicitors who were trying to sue MMR manufacturers. And when that information emerged from my investigation earlier this year, the authors of the research voted to retract their claim of ever having found a possible link between MMR and autism at all.
But the damage had been done.
No parent wants to expose their child to unnecessary danger. Yet measles, mumps and rubella can still be a serious threat.
The government responded with glossy ad campaigns, urging parents to have their children immunised. But confidence in MMR had been shaken. And many parents were left confused.
Come on, have some lunch. Have some lunch, darling.
Here's 14-month-old Aaron. He's Tracy Broadhurst's first. She's given up work to care for him full-time, and now she's facing a dilemma. Aaron is due his MMR.
Yay, good tomatoes, aren't they?
I'm ultimately frightened that I'm going to take this beautiful, lovely little boy, smiling happy, into the surgery to do the right thing for him, and the actual upshot of it will be that it won't be the right thing because I'll have caused a reaction in his body that's going to give him this development disorder. And then there's the fear of, if I don't take him along and he gets measles and he ends up with a form of brain damage or even dies because of it, I've then got to live with that as well.
After speaking to a health visitor, Tracy put aside her fears and booked Aaron for his 3-in-1. But then she went on the internet.
I've tried to find out the facts for myself to make an informed choice. I've got on one hand a set of professionals saying, in their opinion, it's safe, but then there's another set of professionals saying, well, hang on a minute, I don't believe that to be the case. So I thought, I'm not going to take him today, so I didn't take him.
Nearly 7 years after the Royal Free and Dr. Wakefield launched the vaccine scare, many parents remain worried. MMR vaccination rates have fallen from 92% to as low as 50% in some areas. And doctors say Britain may this winter be facing its first measles epidemic since the 1980s.
People say, well, measles used to be a routine illness. Everybody got it. I certainly had it. Why should we be so worried about it? Is it that big a deal?
Yeah, it was a routine illness. Everyone caught it, and every year about 100 children died of it, even, you know, as recently as the 60s. And worldwide, about 1 million children die each year from this disease. And it could well end up being a public health disaster.
Those fears for public health became a reality in the year 2000 in Ireland, where vaccine take-up is traditionally lower than in Britain. There was a serious measles outbreak in North Dublin, which left 111 admitted to hospital, including 13 in intensive care, and 3 dead. Dimitri Pop and his wife Maria had just moved to Dublin from Romania to start a new life. They now have 2 children, Mark and Abigail. But in the outbreak of 2000, their first child, Naomi, was one of those who died. She was 14 months old and nearly due her MMR when her parents became concerned.
She has spots all over her and she couldn't eat. She had high fever, so I brought her in the hospital and she was seen by the doctor. They said it's only measles.
Initially, she seemed to respond to treatment. But 5 weeks later, her parents noticed something worrying.
Like, she would twitch her eye like that with no reason, and she went still for a couple of seconds. And we suddenly said something is wrong with her. The doctor who seen her, he said she's got brain damage.
So what was that day like? You went to the hospital and the doctor said, well, your daughter's got brain damage.
No, you won't be able to understand the feeling. Like, it's like the end of the world.
They were saying that she's gonna die. We just said, I don't want to hear that, I don't want to believe that, I hope she's gonna be okay, and I know you do your best.
In Naomi's case, measles attacked her brain, producing a horrifying 11-month degeneration. She spent her last 3 weeks in intensive care.
And what were those 3 weeks like?
Oh, the worst. I didn't want to accept it until it happened.
But then that final day came.
It did, yeah.
The final day came and it was a big day.
We knew she's dead. Like, they were taking out her tubes and all that stuff. I know we're not going to bring her back, but even like if we know that we'd save someone else's child from this, would be helpful. Like, it's not fair for children to die like that. It's not fair at all.
Dr. Wakefield left the Royal Free by mutual consent in December 2001. At that time, the patent applications for a rival vaccine and a possible cure for autism were relinquished by the medical school and assigned to him. He now spends much of his time in America. He's the research director of a non-profit organisation in Florida called the International Child Development Resource Centre. This draws parents of autistic children, some of them from Britain, in search of answers and treatment. They have a sister organisation, the Good News Doctor Foundation, displaying a heady mix of religion and medicine. Among their activities, they promote a range of products for autism, described as nutritional supplements, including CoQ10, colostrum gold, and a hormone injection called secretin. At this London hospital, Pat Howlin is a professor of clinical psychology and has studied what she believes is a growing market in alternative products for autism.
Now, here's something I can't understand. We've got research paper after research paper on secretin, and they all say that this hormone does not work. How is it, then, that we find secretin still being sold, still being given to parents for their children, as some kind of remedy for autism? What's going on there?
I think the trouble is autism's a big money spinner for a lot of people. Parents are very vulnerable, they desperately want help for their child, and obviously it's nicer to have a simpler answer like this, a few shots of secretin. Pills labelled IQ or concentration or whatever. They're simple answers.
Now, we paid, what, £21.15 for this little pot of pills. C-Buddies, which is enzymatic therapy, or there's another one here, MSM for sulfation, or coenzyme Q10. I mean, what is going on with all this kind of stuff?
Well, people are making a lot of money out of it. And
it's as simple as that?
I'm afraid so, yes. For most of these, there's absolutely no research evidence one way or the other.
Now, that's a pretty bad picture, isn't it, for the parents of autistic children?
Yes, yeah. No, I think they are a very vulnerable group.
I've come back to America in search of Dr. Wakefield, not least to ask him why he lends his reputation to an organisation that promotes products for which I can find no convincing scientific backing.
This is Melbourne, Florida, about an hour southeast of Orlando. It's a conservative country, strong Republican. And it's the kind of area where, if it comes to finding a cause for autism, they blame the government before they blame God.
The International Child Development Resource Centre, where Dr. Wakefield is research director, is based here.
OK, so here seems to be the deal. Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, Dr. Jerry Cartnell and Dr. Andrew Wakefield. And it seems that a big part of what they're doing here is to promote various products which they say can help autistic children, such as Pure Kids, for example, which they say has been developed by neurological specialists, and Colostrum Gold. Now, they recommend these at various meetings which they attend around the United States, charging parents perhaps $250 a go, and we'll just see what they've got to say about these products here at their offices. My name's Brian Deere. I'm from the UK's Channel 4 television. We'd like to talk to you about some of the products you're selling for the parents of autistic children.
Okay, hold on just a moment.
Thank you. Now, I'm also hoping to contact Dr. Wakefield. Is he, I believe he's your Director of Research.
Right, but he's not in our facility or even in this state right now. I don't exactly know where he is, but Dr. Bradstreet would be able to.
But he's still your Director of Research here?
You have to clarify that with Dr. B. Okay. Maybe you could come around 11:30 tomorrow morning. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
But Dr. Bradstreet cancelled his appointment and said he didn't want to be interviewed by me. In a statement, he said that any suggestion of profiteering was completely baseless. He claimed that many of his patients pay nothing for his services and that the organisation does not promote any products as remedies for autism. Eventually, I tracked down Dr. Wakefield some 900 miles from Florida.
This is downtown Indianapolis in the American Midwest. Dr. Wakefield is the star attraction here at a conference on autism. I've been trying now to speak with him for a year. We even wrote, but he didn't reply.
The meeting is organised by the Autism Society of America. On the US conference circuit, Dr. Wakefield has found a new audience for his theories. He was the last speaker of the day, so I approached him at the end of his presentation.
Dr. Wakefield, I'm sorry to interrupt. Brian Deere, Channel 4 television. Could I talk to you about your research, sir, and your commercial ambitions? Excuse me. Could I talk to you, sir? Parents have very serious questions to ask you, sir. Excuse me, sir. Dr. Wakefield, sir. Sir, could we talk to you about your products, sir? Dr. Wakefield, sir.
I wanted to ask him about the patent applications and about his own lab contradicting his claims.
Dr. Wakefield, sir, we have very important questions to ask you about your research and your commercial ambitions, sir. These are very important questions, and I'm sure you would have the time to explain what you've been up to. If you're confident about your work, sir, and the quality of your research, sir, and that your commercial ambitions will withstand public scrutiny, sir, you will stand your ground, sir. And
I wrote to Dr. Wakefield again. His solicitors first replied that it would be inappropriate to respond to the issues raised in this film because of the General Medical Council investigation into his research. Later, they said that he was under no legal or professional obligation to disclose the patents, which they claim were unrelated to his views about MMR.
Ben speaks the truth and he's out helping people. Why don't you guys go?
Please, you did not get press approval. You will have to leave the premises. Please. Before I call the Indianapolis Police Department.
Stacey and Damien no longer believe that their daughter's autism was caused by MMR. After researching and remembering Rebecca as a baby, they realised that she had already shown symptoms before she was vaccinated.
Autism is strong in my family. I've got 2 cousins that were diagnosed with autism. So I'm starting now to believe that it's hereditary.
Now they're angry that anybody raised a link with MMR at all.
When your child gets diagnosed with such a terrible diagnosis of autism, that's such a life-changing and challenging thing that you have to go through, you don't need people putting that into your head.
Hearing people trying to say it's the MMR, you know, some are saying it's not the MMR, you know, it's just really confusing, you know, and it's even makes it harder to come to terms with.
Now she's been diagnosed as autistic. What are your hopes for her now?
Well, it's just one simple hope, and I'm just hoping that she'll talk. I only wish that we've got to be able to communicate with our child.
Anything else?
Just that she'll be happy and people will accept her.
Do you think they will?
Who knows? I hope so.